Good afternoon. My name is Akisa Wandera. We start off from the border of Nandi and Kisumu, where tension still remains high after two people were killed following cattle rustling activities and fears of retaliatory attacks. Currently, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, beg your pardon, is expected in the area. But let's touch base with our reporter from Kisumu, Rashid Ronald, and just understand what is going down there. Thank you for joining us on News Desk, Rashid. Kindly just give us an update on how the situation is as of now.
First of all, Akisa, very, very interesting because this is happening when Parliament is here to discuss this cattle rustling bill so that we can make the menace a national disaster. And that notwithstanding, at Songor Shopping Center, Songor has been one of the epicenter, one of the places where when we are talking about chaos or between people of Nandi and Kisumu, then Songor must be able to come in because things have been happening here since time immemorial. And as we speak right now, security is very tight. The security teams are hovering around in vehicles along these border areas. Like in Songor, we have seen about 3 police vehicles and police officers on standby, and you can be able to see people in small groups discussing here and there. I can't say that tension is very high. I can say there's an uneasy calm here. Earlier on, I visited the Kopere Shopping Center again, and also there was very, very tight security there with the security team from both Nandi and Kisumu there. Also a team from the Quick Response Unit, the QRU from the police. And also people were seen discussing in small groups, Akisa.
Now, Rashid, we understand that officers from the National Cohesion and Integration Commission are expected to visit the area. Has that happened, or are we still expecting them to go down there?
We expect Ole Kaparo and team, NCIC, to be at a place called Kopere. When I passed by Kopere, they were still, they hadn't arrived by then, but we are told they are on their way from Kisumu to Kopere, where they're expected to address the people there, and also from there they'll cross over to, they'll come all the way to Songor, then cross over to the Nandi side of the border, Akisa.
Are we expecting peace meetings to take place in the area? We understand that residents have said they will not heed to a call for peace meetings because this particular incident keeps on recurring. So is there any expectation of peace meetings to just try and avert any retaliatory attacks?
Akisa, unless otherwise, I don't think that people here will refuse to take part in those peace meetings, because if you look at all the villages along the border, they're all deserted, and people are camped at police stations around. So for the last 2 days, it will take a madman not to agree to come to the table and discuss about how to restore peace in such a situation, Akisa.
All right, thank you very much, Rashid. We'll definitely be touching base with you later on in our subsequent bulletins just to get an update on what really is happening at the border of Nandi and Kisumu. Now, on related matters, Parliament was this morning debating a bill that seeks to have more stringent laws to deal with cattle rustling. Baringo North Member of Parliament, William Cheptumo, wants cattle rustling declared a national disaster and a special fund established to compensate victims. In a motion tabled before the National Assembly, he says that theft and raids have had irreparable and negative socio-economic impact. Cheptumo says the menace has denied members of the pastoral community the enjoyment of their social, economic and political rights as guaranteed under the Bill of Rights. Once concluded and adopted, the bill will be referred to the relevant committee for drafting of a legal framework that will anchor the fund. Here is part of this morning's proceedings.
And they are really trained and well disciplined. They cease to be forces or militants of their communities, but they're actually seen as officers of our government, officers serving in those counties, officers working with our Kenya Police and Kenya Regional Police to ensure that the issue of cattle rustling is brought to book. Madam Speaker, if we have already passed the law, and I thank Honorable Kamama's committee because they have even availed some money in this financial year to support payment of allowances, buying of uniforms, and their training. If you can upscale the funding support for Kenya Police Reservists, Madam Speaker, you can go a very long way in dealing with the issue of cattle rustling.
Ya wizi ya mifugo. Wizi ya mfugo, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni mchanganyiko ya jinai kuu zaidi ya 10. Kuko uwaji, kuko ubakaji, kuko kujeruhi watu, kuko kuiba mali. Najua ni jinai aina 10, Mheshimiwa Spika. Lakini kuitangaza kama jangwa ya kitaifa, kuitangaza na kuwapa pesa waathiriwa, ni kusema kesho asubuhi tena muende muibe ngombe ngine.
This manners of cattle rustling has brought a lot of destruction of property. Madam Speaker, when I grew up in Turkana, whenever we have cattle rustling, people took only cattle and other livestock without destroying properties of the people. But now, Madam Speaker, the present generation has gone a bit high by destroying the properties of the victims.
About 7 schools are yet to open due to the menace. I have an officer who was operating an APC who was brought down the other day, 2 days ago in my constituency because of this menace.
Well, still on matters cattle rustling, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights has commenced investigations on violation of human rights in the North Rift region, more so in counties that are prone to cattle rustling. The exercise is aimed at ensuring that residents in the region live peacefully.
This is part of a broader project that we are doing as a commission, focusing on the state of security in the areas that we think have been most affected. So the North Rift, which has its own unique security issues, the Coast region that has its own unique security issues, and Northern Kenya. And what we want to focus more on is the coast. And I think I like what one of the members of the MCA said there. In line with our logo is the cost of human rights violations.
Well, let's now head over to Mombasa, where President Uhuru Kenyatta has just addressed the head teachers conference. And let's now link up with our reporter in Mombasa, Francis Ontoma, for an update on what was really said in today's session. Thank you for joining us on News Desk. Francis, kindly just give us the highlights of the address made by the President.
Well, a very good afternoon, Akisa. And as I can hear behind me, or rather in the background of where I'm speaking from, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, has just joined the Kenya Secondary School Head Conference here at the World Waters. And of course, it has been a long wait. He was expected to be here yesterday. Now he has made it today, and of course, a lot of expectation in this particular forum, that it is raising a lot of issues that they want to hear what the President will be having to say about them. The top on them, of course, has been the question of job growth and the question of their salaries. They have already hailed that CBA that was signed yesterday between KNUT and TSC. They are saying it sets a good precedent to start discussing matters that have been deviling the industry, or rather the teachers of Kenya. But of course, we have heard the Kenya Union of Teachers officials and the Kenya post-primary education teachers also union also speaking and also talking about this question of job groups and salaries. And right now, of course, on the podium right now is the governor of Mombasa, Ali Hassan Joho, representing the political class, also trying to air their concerns as a county and some of the challenges that actually behavioral education at the grassroots. Akisa.
Now, Francis, quite interestingly, last year we witnessed a lot of industrial actions or industrial unrest from the teachers. Will the kind of talks that are going down in Mombasa and the presence of the president help avert such situations this year and the coming years?
Well, it's important to note that this is the very first occasion of the Kenya Secondary School Heads Association Conference that President Uhuru Kenyatta has has made his presence since he was elected. And of course, setting now the mood here that a lot of expectations, many expect a lot to be rolled out. And yesterday's signing of that CBA between TSC and KNUT is, of course, seen as a huge leap into trying to address this age-long or rather traditional industrial unrest that have been witnessed in the industry. Well, we had Sosion yesterday, the Kenya National Union of Teachers Secretary General, of course, trying to hear and show the significance of this particular CBA. They are saying that it has already started setting out the formulations that will guide how they will be paid, or rather they will be, of course, enumerated. And of course, it also sets out important regulations for the Salaries and Remuneration Commission to also try and of course, give guidelines to the Teacher Service Commission so that these remuneration issues that are together in the sector are able to be dealt with in confined.
All right, thank you very much, Francis, for that update. Francis Ontomo there joins us from Mombasa, where the head teachers conference is currently ongoing. Now, pupils in Samburu are struggling to get to school, and as a result of the ongoing heavy rains in some parts of the country, riverbanks in the county of Samburu that have burst have hampered transport, forcing students to risk their lives to and from school. Take a look.
Samburu County has experienced extremes, drought and now flooding. The River Yare's burst banks are a visual affirmation. And the edge of the impact, school children. Reports indicate that those most affected are from St. Paul's Primary School in Maralal, most from Yare and El Kuroto. The reporting time is 7 a.m., but most of them are now arriving as late as 8:30.
Jambo hili litaweza kuadhiri watoto wetu katika matokeo ya mwaka huu. Hivi tunawaachilia watoto mapema, kwa hivyo wanaweza kupoteza ama kukosa kusoma vipindi ambavyo vilikuwa vimepangiwa wao wanafunzi kusomeshwa.
It's daunting and dangerous having to balance on the logs so as to cross the river.
Waweze kutusaidia kwa sababu wakitusaidia kutujengea daraja, nafikiri hao wanafunzi wetu watafika shuleni mapema, naweza hata kufanya masomo ya mapema na pale ya jioni. Na pia bali na kusaidia wanafunzi, pia watakuwa wamesaidia jamii.
Watoto huwa hawakuji shule, wanakuwa absent kwa sababu ya maji. Watoto huwa wanasimama huko kando ya laga kuongojea maji. Wakati sasa maji inaisha, ndio sasa watoto wanaenda nyumbani ama wanaenda shule.
They want the county government to intervene, not just for the sake of their lives at risk. None of them wants the cost of the floods to be their education. Dorcas Wangira, KTN News.
Now, a 12-year-old boy in Mbeere South Sub-County has been out of school this year following an alleged severe corporal punishment by his head teacher, resulting in a foot injury. The boy, a pupil at Karuko Primary School, has been unable to walk since the incident in January of this year. Several visits to various hospitals have not been fruitful.
Karuko Primary School's motto is a melting pot of knowledge, but in this instance, it is the genesis of a melting pot of anger for these parents whose son is now destined to a limp he acquired one January afternoon at school.
Nilimuuliza kwani kumetokea nini, akaniambia alipofika shuleni wakati wa Friday hakukuwa shuleni. Juu alikuwa mgonjwa. Alipoenda Monday walienda wakasoma vizuri, ilipofika masaa ya saa 8 ndipo headmaster alienda akaingia kwenye darasa na akamchapa. Alipomchapa juu amezoea huwa anachapa watoto kwa chini ya miguu. Alipomchapa ndio mtoto wangu aliweza juu anasema alimchapa na viboko 5. Alipomchapa ndio mtoto wangu alikuja nyumbani akiwa anatembea kama kiwete. Na hapo ndio tulichukua hatua, nikachukua hatua ya kumpeleka katika hospitali ya Karatina akafanywa matibabu. Alipofanywa matibabu katika hospitali ya Karatina hakuweza kubadilika.
As any other parent would, his parents continued seeking treatment for their son, having reported the matter to the police. They confronted the head teacher to assist, but he was dismissive. Later, the school committee visited the boy and agreed to cater for his treatment.
Nikaenda nikapata headmaster. Nikamwambia mtoto wangu wakati ulipomchapa nikapeleka kwa matibabu na bado hajapata nafuu. Ndipo akaniambia mimi hakuna mahali unaweza nipeleka na tu kuweza kuelewana naye, manake nilipoenda aliniambia kwani umeniletea hizo picha kwamba mimi nitibu mtoto. Nikamwambia sio hivyo, sikuletea picha utibu mtoto, manake mimi penye nimetibu pesa zimeisha, nilikuwa nakuja kwamba tusaidiana na wewe ili uweze kunisaidia tukaweza kutibu mtoto. Akakataa. Hapo ndipo alichukua hatua, akakuja hapa nyumbani wakiwa na mwanakamati, akaona mtoto na alipoangalia mtoto aliniambia hii ni kazi kidogo sana, hii si kazi kubwa.
Tangu Januari hakuwahi kuja. Alikuja mwezi wa 5 ikiishaisha ndio alifika hapa. Wakati nilitoa hiyo mjadala shuleni kwamba nilipigia mtoto, hata shuleni karibu kungekuwa na vita.
The head teacher, however, continues to deny any wrongdoing, claiming that the boy's parents are being used to tarnish his name.
I did not broke the leg of this boy. In fact, this parent is being used by politicians just to malign my name and bring down the standard of this school.
As the blame game continues, this 12-year-old boy remains home, embracing his unfortunate limp as his colleagues continue learning this academic year. A school year denied him in unfortunate circumstances. Dr. Masi Korir, KTN News.
300 aliens of Somali origin have been arrested at Mwingi and arraigned in court since the beginning of this year. This is due to an existing border conflict between Kitui and Tana River counties, where 2 people were killed a week ago.
Security officers are on high alert after 2 people were killed a week ago at the border between Kitui and Tana River. The deaths have been linked to terrorists who have been using the Garissa-Mwingi route to access Nairobi.
We have positioned the police on the ground. We have roadblocks at various places and to perform routine work. One, of course, is to check and ensure that the legal persons, people who are traveling from one point to another without required documents, are apprehended and arrested.
300 aliens of Somali origin have so far been arrested and arraigned in court since the beginning of the year. The Somali herders have been causing conflict in the area and forcefully grazing their camel.
Coming up with this idea of having the motorcycles for the chiefs, kwa sababu hii inawafanya kazi yao iwe rahisi. Hawa watu saingine wanaongojea matatu. Some are from different places where hakuna hata transport.
A similar attack recently occurred in Mandera, where a grenade attack killed 5 police officers on the spot. The area chiefs have now been equipped with motorbikes to be able to catch the culprits and move around the area. Mukami Maura, KTN News.
Now, Brookside Dairies has signed a partnership with Standard Media Group ahead of the Brookside Breeders Livestock Show slated for end of July this year. Speaking at the signing ceremony held at Standard Group offices, Broadcasting Managing Director Joe Munene lauded the partnership, terming it as a strategic and a step in the right direction towards mainstreaming agribusiness in the country. Munene noted that the dairy sector, which contributes close to 6% to the country's GDP, was at its prime as more and more of the population embrace farming. On his part, John Gethy, who heads milk procurement at Brookside Dairies, indicated that this year's Breeders' Show will emphasize on new approaches to dairy farming that farmers can take up to boost productivity. The Brookside Breeders' Show runs every 2 years. The event will be held at the ACK Jamhuri Show grounds in Nairobi.
I think we'll be looking to give about value worth about 20 million in the form of publicity and in the form of advertising. And over and beyond that, the partnership and the information that then is going out to our viewers. And we look forward to a fantastic livestock breeders show. As a media house, we play a critical role in terms of servicing the economic system, of which Brookside as an entity is part of. And critically in terms of providing a platform that we can then communicate information, we can bring together brands and products in a connection with their consumers. And in this particular instance, the Livestock Breeders Association, the show, we are happy to partner with Brookside.
Ours as Brookside, and on behalf of the management of Brookside, I would like to say thank you to Standard, and I'm confident, Joe, that we have chosen a good partner. I'm confident that we will achieve our objective with yourselves to ensure that the stamp that this country has in terms of dairy excellence is recognized by all in the country and appreciated by all in the country and appreciated by all within the region and the continent at large.
All right, we wrap it up on that note, but how have counties been using the money they have been getting from taxpayers? A report has been released today by the National Taxpayers Association, and we will be looking into how the county governments have been spending their revenue. And speaking to us later on will be Martin Napisa, who is the National Coordinator for the National Taxpayers Association, and he will be talking to us about that report that has been released today. Be sure to join us on KTN News. On DSTV, you will get us at channel 274, on GoTV channel 94, and on Zuku on channel 14 for that discussion and more news. My name is Akisa Wandera. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome back. You are watching KTN News Desk. Now, Kitengele town is raging over acts of violence carried out by alleged robbers. This comes after 8 people were killed in different circumstances. Take a look.
Hii kazi ya kulipiga imesaidia watu, imetumiwa na wakora vibaya kotini na ujibu hiyo mashtaka. We have agreed with the border community that they are going to have a committee of their own to assist us and to work with the officers in terms of information and also the general security of the area. So they want them to be part of us.
Huwa ninaona watu ya security huwa wanakutana nao kila siku. Wako kwa magari, wanakimbisana na makaa, wako kwa vichorochoro, wakikimbisana na band, lakini siku moja sijaisikia hata bwana OCPD akisema ya kwamba ile bunduki inaua watu wa motorbike itavutwa inafanywa nini?
Now, a report by the National Taxpayers Association indicates that about 273 million Kenya shillings is wasted by county governments each financial year. The report, conducted across 6 various counties, including Kisumu, Nyeri, Busia, Kitui, Kwale and Nandi, also reveals massive projects that lie incomplete at the county level, amounting to 26 million shillings. The report, released this morning by the Auditor General Edward Oko, seeks to promote accountability, effective and efficient collection and utilization of public resources through citizen empowerment, enhancing public service delivery and partnership building.
In the accountability circle, from my office, I think we need to do more. You know, the accountability circle is on 2 pillars. There is the pillar of the revenue. That revenue which we say we are going to raise so much, we are going to raise so much. There is that pillar, there is that accountability of that revenue, and then there's accountability on the other side of how that money is spent. I feel that offices like mine, we have not been doing enough on the revenue side. Yes, we are all doing how it has been spent and how it's been acted, but I think I owe it to you that we should be doing more on the revenue side. There should be a report which says all the revenue sources, what was budgeted, was it actually received, and was it actually then went to our bank account, the exchequer, and then from then, how therefore has it been spent?
These reports that are given here highlight the magnitude of resources being given by CRA to the counties and national government, and also the extent to which those resources are not being fully utilized to the expectations and aspirations of Kenyans.
Well, that sets the tone for our discussion this with Martin Napisa, who is the National Coordinator for the National Taxpayers Association, and he is joining us from our City Center studios. Good afternoon, Martin, and thank you very much for joining us on KTN News Desk. And straight to it, the kind of report that you've released today, something comes out very clear that most of the resources channeled to the devolved governments are not fully utilized. What is the reason behind this?
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me in the studio. First of all, we assessed 6 counties, and we basically focused on construction type projects where we were looking at how much was allocated, how much was used, and how it was used. We did an analysis, and we realized that about 16% of the money were not actually well used, 16%. And for us, this is just a start, and we think that counties are not where the constituency were, because when we started monitoring the constituency, I think it was 29%. So the counties, given that this devolution was just the other day, about 3 years ago, I think they have tried quite much, and we are still engaging to see that they can be able to improve. And some of the areas where we found a lot of wastage was projects that are implemented, you're not using qualified, technical people. Sometimes the materials that are used are not very good. Sometimes, you find a project is given more money than it was supposed to be given, spending quite a lot of money on a single project, when the money could have done maybe double the work. So we've seen quite those challenges, and for us, what we are doing is that we are engaging with the counties to see that we can be able to address those issues. And this is the first phase of our monitoring, and we can call it baseline, because on the basis of that baseline is when we can be able to now to engage further for us to see that we are addressing those issues that we found out during the initial monitoring that we've just completed, that we've just launched today.
Martin, also from your report, something very interesting comes up, and that 23 million shillings is, I could say, wasted on conflicting projects. Is this pegged on the duplication of roles from the national government to the county government?
When you look at the project that we looked at, actually it's a serious thing that we, both national government and county governments should need to look at. One, you find that now because of the transition, and transition started some long time ago, we saw transition from the local government to now county governments, where projects are not transitioned. Not all the information are given actually to the authority that is supposed to take over that particular project, for example. So you find a project is being implemented, we have information that it was given some money, but then you don't have a file for that particular information, so you might not be able to know what was supposed to be done. Who was doing the work, and you find it sometimes those projects are just abandoned. Sometimes when you look at those records, one particular record gives you a different figure in terms of how much was allocated to those particular projects. Another set of records gives you a totally different figure. So in terms of monitoring, in terms of knowing how much exactly was used in those particular projects, it's actually very, very difficult. We've just seen the CDF changing from Constituent Development Fund to National Constituent Development Fund. Some of the projects that CDF had not completed, which are supposed to refer to county governments, why they transfer those projects, they don't transfer with all the information. And also counties are very reluctant in terms of taking over those particular projects. So at the end of the day, you'll see that those are the projects that will be just wasted. So we found a very interesting scenario where you find a project on the ground, you find contractors working on that particular project, but when you engage the counties, they tell you that this project is not ours. But yes, somebody is working on that particular project. So you ask yourself, who that project belongs to who? And when you look at the records in the counties, you find that that project was allocated money. So we have those challenges that actually we need to look at and see how we can be able to address the issue of information. Record keeping is one of the poorest thing at the county level that is, hindering public participation, that is hindering access to information, and again is hindering proper project implementation.
All right, Martin, let's talk about the unaccounted for funds. And from your report, you say that about 9 million is not accounted for. Why is this the case?
The case for unaccounted for funds is that we are given records when we go to the ground to look at, what happened. Or we use official information from the counties. Now, when we get information from the counties, they tell us that this project has been implemented, it's in a particular place. We go to that particular place to see if the project exists. It does not exist. We ask the people who stay in those particular areas, it's not there. Yes, on one hand, the county government is saying that the project was implemented. On the other hand, where it was supposed to have been implemented does not exist. So that is unaccounted for funds. We cannot be able to trace the project, yet money has been spent. And those are some of the serious issues that we are supposed to focus on in terms of making sure that every cent from taxpayers is actually used. Although in this particular report, when you look at the percentages, it has significantly gone down. Sometimes back we used to get very huge amount of allocation. But again, losing a cent from taxpayers, I think is very, very painful, and we all need to engage and see how that can be traced.
Now, Martin, your survey went through 6 counties, but I don't think we would be wrong to assert that this is probably the situation with all the other counties. But this also comes at a time when there has been tension, if I could call it that, between the national government and the county governments, where governors are asking for more funds to be channeled to the devolved governments. But with the amount of money that is being wasted at the county level, where do we go from here exactly with the kind of report that you've come up with this morning?
For me, I think we need to strengthen access to information. One thing that is happening that is common among all the counties, you find that citizens' participation is almost missing. You find, a project being implemented, and the people who are being engaged is a contractor directly with the county governments, maybe the chief officers. Minus the citizen, it's very, very, very difficult for people to know what is happening. And people use such situations for them to be able to misuse the public funds. Counties need to change the way they are implementing projects. And I just give you an example of how the constituencies have been, implementing their projects. They have what we call project management committees for every project, such that there are committees from the community themselves who are supposed to oversee the implementation of the project. In that particular case, you are giving information to the community. They have access to information. They can be able to follow up and be able to question. But in this particular, a kind of situation where you are dealing directly with the contractors, and the people who are supposed to benefit from this particular projects are not participating, it becomes very difficult for people to do the right work because there's nobody who is oversighting them. And I think counties need to learn one word from in terms of using the committees, access to information for people to be able to participate so that they can be able to improve the situation. Otherwise, we might end up misusing a lot of money, because that is, in our assessment, we found out that that was the biggest challenge that we've got on the ground in terms of project implementation.
All right, thank you very much, Martin, for joining us on News Desk. We appreciate you just coming in to tell us more about that report. That was Martin Napisa, who is the National Coordinator for the National Taxpayers Association, who just released a report on the funding and how taxpayers' money is used in the devolved governments. And Timothy Otieno will be giving us a full report on the same in our subsequent bulletins. Well, moving on, a stray buffalo in Kitengela, Kajiado County was the cause of a 5-hour anxiety among the residents. The buffalo is reported to have made its way from the neighboring Nairobi National Park into a farm. It took the help of residents and the Kenya Wildlife Service officers to safely escort the animal back to its origin. Cases of human-wildlife conflict in the area have been more common in the recent past. Residents have complained of wild animals now attacking them and their livestock with no compensation for their losses. They have now challenged the government to intervene and offer them protection.
So I think something should be done about it. Kero la simba limekuwa ni jambo la kila siku. Tunakutana nayo mchana, jioni. Hata sasa inahatarisha maisha ya wanafunzi na wanapoenda shule na wamama wanapoenda kutoa kuni, na sasa watu wana hofu kubwa sana.
Now, the Kenya National Examinations Council is pledging to deliver credible examination results this year. Council Chairman George Magoha says that the new council will do everything possible to give every Kenyan child a chance to succeed. He was speaking to the executive officials of the Kenya Secondary Schools Heads Association who are attending a conference in Mombasa.
Because for the short time that I've been around NEC, you see some of you grouping around trying to find out what are the set books for the years to come. And I'm asking myself, why should we be looking for set books now when actually we should be developing the children to develop reading techniques? At that time, if you passed with a C or a C+, you are very happy because you passed in capital letters. Who would want his child to be shown an exam before it is done? By the way, as a practicing physician, I want to tell you the effect. It is like an adult man raping an underage child. That child is destroyed for the rest of her life. It doesn't matter what she becomes, she shall remain permanently destroyed.
See, we are slowly coming together. The act is coming together. We are building that necessary partnership we need to drive the education sector forward. We do better when we are together, when we talk to one another, and when we work as a group. And the legislative arm of government is here, the executive branch of government is here, our partners are here, our prime implementers who are yourselves as head teachers are here. So we are working together. The unions are here. So I think we are building a community of ideas and a community of implementation. Lastly, before you go tonight, you people, we have actually, through this meal, we have sealed some sort of covenant. Yeah. We have sealed a covenant. And the covenant is this, that we are going to deliver credible exams and we are going to have a credible environment. Yeah. So that's a covenant. I won't invite the magicians of Western Kenya, but if you betray our covenant, you will eat grass and so on. So, yeah. So I think it's been, it's been very good. I frankly, and as I said earlier in the day, I mean it. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I am privileged and I thank God for the opportunity. The only opportunity now we have is to rise up, dust ourselves, get our act together and drive this sector forward with focus and commitment and deliver results for our children.
Well, from Mombasa, let's now head over to Eldoret, where a 20-year-old boy who scored grade A in his 2013 Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education exams has shocked his village by refusing to join university and instead choosing to herd cattle. But as KTN's Elvis Koskei reports, the boy has reasons which, according to him, are valid. Take a look.
As he leads the cows to the boma, you may think one Collins Kiprop has a degree in animal husbandry. But his current life is a reflection of the life challenges he's encountered since his mother passed away when he was 9. he had to take up the role by selling vegetables so that his siblings and aging grandmother would have a meal. Collins Kiprop is no ordinary young man. He's a genius who scored an A grade in his 2013 Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education, getting 81 points at Samoei Boys High School. Despite the exemplary performance, his dream of pursuing a course in medicine is now dashed, bringing his world to a stop.
Okay, it's basically frustrating, especially, okay, but our education system betrays people. It betrays dreams, unaona. It makes your life like a fix. Ile tu unaingilia because unataka tu ku make a living. So I looked at, okay, everyone was like telling me, why don't you do that particular course? Then I was like telling them, no, there is a reason why I want to do this. It's not because I just want to get a living and then help everyone else around just because I have a job. No, you do that with a reason. It's from within.
At the back of his mind, as he made the selection choice of universities, he knew that he will do well in the field of medicine.
Nursing and all those nilikuwa nimekuwa qualified. And then unapata hujapata any of them. Wamekupikia to any other course hapo hivi. So it can make very angry. So kuona hivi, and it is Technical University of Mombasa, Marine Resource, nikararua hiyo karatasi. I was very bitter. Okay, because I felt fooled, I felt cheated. Nimeworked all that time and then